Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. The Affordable Connectivity Program provides $14 billion for subsidies for low-income households. How long is that going to last? Let's try to figure that out. Hey there, Rick Husey, Broadband Deployment News. Thanks for joining me. So as I mentioned, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is the bipartisan infrastructure law that's going to provide a lot of money for broadband deployment, also provided $14 billion for the Affordable Connectivity Program. That's a program that took over for the Emergency Broadband Benefit. The EBB was a program that was part of the coronavirus package that was passed. As people were thrown out of work, it was a way to help them be able to get broadband service so that they could maybe find other jobs, those kinds of things. So that was that temporary program. I think if I recall, that had about 2.5 billion, I think, in it, something like that. So when the IIJA came out, the infrastructure law was passed, then 14 billion was allocated to the Affordable Connectivity Program, and that was meant to be more of a permanent program for low-income households. So it was not related to the pandemic. I say permanent, but it's not permanent because there's $14 billion in there. That was passed through that bill. And then money that was in EBB at the end of the year, at the end of that year, when the bill passed, it transferred over into the ACP. So I don't know how much was left, but there's about $14 billion in there. So a little while ago, I was just scratching out on some paper on how long I thought this program was going to last, the money based on how much is in there, how many people have signed up, how many could potentially sign up, the amount of the subsidies, those kinds of things. So I was going to go through that. And I also, one of the reasons I want to go through that today is I saw that someone else did some more sophisticated looking calculations than mine, so I was going to show that as well. So first let's look at what I came up with here. So as I was thinking about this and how I was going to come across this or come up with these numbers, so I have the ACP funds that are available, and again, it's about $14 billion. And households that are signed up currently, we believe there's about, this is based on what the FCC has said most recently, 13 million households have signed up. The number of eligible households that I was able to find is 48 million. This other organization that I'm going to show you their calculations, they were at 37 million, I think, which is interesting because one of the places where I found the 48 million number was from their website, but I found it in other places as well. So I don't know if they found something different recently that makes them think that it's a lower number than that. But again, I have the number of eligible households at 48 million. And then the subsidies, the way that works is you can get $30 per month per household if you qualify for the ACP. And there's a number of ways to qualify. One is if you just happen to qualify for Internet Service Provider's program that would be for low-income households. But also, there's some more defined things, if you, it's basically a lot of the federal grant kind of programs for low-income households. If you qualify for those, like lunch programs, other kinds of things, you would qualify for this. So again, $30 per month per household, unless you're on tribal lands, qualifying tribal lands, in which case it would be $75 per month. That could be the subsidy. And then there's also a $100 one-time device subsidy that, again, these are all limited to one per household. So it's like one internet connection per household and you get this subsidy. The device subsidy, same thing, one device per household. And that can go towards a desktop computer, a laptop, or a tablet. And the person who is getting this has to pay at least, I believe it's at least somewhere between $10 and $50. So they've got to pay more than 10 and less than 50, and then they can get this subsidy. So not every service provider that's offering the ACP is offering the device subsidies because it's not a lot of money that they'd be getting for this to pay for something like maybe on tablets, to pay for a laptop or a desktop computer. There's not a lot of money there to do that. So again, 30 and 75 on the monthlies. And the way this works is that the internet service provider needs to sign up for this, that's raise their hand basically and say, yeah, we want to participate in the ACP. And most of them, a lot of them are, I shouldn't say most of them, but all of the big ones are, and a lot of smaller independent guys are as well. And then the customer needs to qualify for that. And then when the customer qualifies for that and the ISP is offering that, then the customer gets that $30. And that can be all the way up to a free account. So a lot of internet service providers had signed up on the Internet for All program that the Biden administration launched where they said, yeah, we'll go ahead and provide a low-cost option for $30, and that way anybody who has an ACP subsidy can get free internet. So there's a lot that can get free internet through this. And the way I believe it works with ACP is this subsidy has to be offered on every single package that the ISP offers, which is fine because it just means that they're going to be giving that same $30 away, but just for a package. And they actually might be getting some revenue from that. So for example, if they have a, let's say a 100 by 100 package, let's say it's a fiber operator, it's 100 by 100, and they might sell it for $30, and then the person can get it for free. Or maybe they've got a gig symmetrical, and they sell that for $75. Well, then the customer who qualifies for ACP will get a $30 subsidy, and they pay the difference. So that's the way it's supposed to work with the ACP. And again, basically it's all handled through the internet service providers. They then let the government know, I guess, how many people are on the subsidy and what they need to be paid back by the government. So the money doesn't get paid directly to the customer, it gets paid to the service provider, and they're providing these subsidies for their customers. So that's how it works. So you see, it sounds like a lot of money. $14 billion, that's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. It doesn't just sound like it, it's a lot of money. We forget sometimes when we start talking about hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars. Some of these bills, are now trillions of dollars. So 14 billion, this seems like nothing, but it's a lot of money. So if you got 14 billion, you got 13 million households, how long is that going to last? And then we've got a number of eligible households. So right now, 13 million, how many more are going to sign up? So we have to make some assumptions about that. So that's what I did. So let's look at that. So we've got 13 million subscribers signed up. If we just take that, let's say we take the scenario where nothing changes from where it is right now. So 13 million subscribers times $30 a month times 12 months. Well, that basically works out to about $4.68 billion per year. So that 14 billion, you can see already, is not going to go very far. So $14 billion, you divide that $4.68 billion that you're paying per year in subsidies, and that's about 2.99, really about 3 years, okay? And that's figuring, again, that we don't increase the number of subscribers that are using the ACP, and also that it's $30. So we're not taking into account any tribal lands where they might be paying $75. We're not taking into account any subsidies for any equipment, any of these $100 one-time subsidies. So I'm just saying, this is, I think, the best case scenario would be 3 years that this money would last. But then I decided, well, let's see what it looks like if we get a little more aggressive and maybe more realistic with what's going to happen. I said, let's say we get up to 20 million subscribers doing this. And, it certainly could do that. If we've got 37 million, not 37 million, excuse me, I was saying there was 48 million, so I came up with 20 million. We've got 48 million households, and we then have 20 million, I should say 20 million households, not subscribers, that are going to be using this. Then, that's obviously going to impact how long these funds are going to last. And why would it grow like this? Well, the FCC is really promoting. In fact, they're doing roadshows or going out and trying to promote this. And it's part of the BEAD program and the Infrastructure Act that every service provider needs to be offering the ACP. They need to be promoting the ACP. They want communities to go out and promote the ACP. They want to make sure that people that can qualify for this can get it. So, we're at 13 million now. I don't foresee 20 million being that hard to reach with all of the promotion that's going to be going on, especially as these, as these communities start, the planning funds are starting to be distributed, I should say. The $100 million that each state's going to get, the planning funds are starting to be distributed. I think it was one state, I can't remember, it was Arkansas, Arizona, I can't remember. One state has already gotten their funds, and more are going to be getting them. So that's $100 million, and part of what they can do there in planning, I think they can promote things, they can do those kinds of things. So it could be that they're going to be using the funds for that. So we're going to start seeing more people signing up for this. So let's say it's 20 million subscribers, and then I said $35 a month, because let's figure there's, again, it's either $30 or $75. So let's take in some tribal lands that are going to be using this. Plus, let's throw in some devices here and there from some of these providers that are providing that. Let's just say it works out to about $35 a month times 12 months, and that's going to be $8.4 billion per year. Now, obviously, this is not right away, because we've got 13 million now, and we're not up to 20 million. So, it's not going to be immediate, but let's just look at that. $14 billion times 8.4 billion, or divided by $8.4 billion, and that works out to, as you probably guessed, just over 1.5 years, so 1.67 years. So you can see this money is not going to last long. It's not going to be long before we're going to be having the conversation. We're already having the conversation right now of what happens after this time frame, because this is money that was allocated as part of the infrastructure law. And the only way I can think of that this is going to be funded again would be for Congress to say, okay, we need to either make this permanent, like Social Security or something like that, where it's just a permanent entitlement program that just is funded, and then, or just every time there's an appropriation bill or a budget or something, they're just going to have to say, okay, well, how much is going to be in there for the ACP this year? And they're going to have to do that. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but again, this conversation is going to have to come up pretty quickly. So I was also going to show you let me exit out of this. So this is the organization I was telling you about that also did this. So it's the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, and this is a group that advocates for community broadband. So they have a newsletter, they do podcasts, and what else do they do? They've got a list of interesting list of muni. In fact, I showed that a long time ago. Interesting list of municipal providers throughout the country, those kinds of things. So they're pretty active, and they put together this really cool looking dashboard for the ACP. So you see here the Portable Connectivity Program. Again, they're showing the same number I had, which is 13 million of 37 million. Well, they have 37 million households. So I'm not sure where they came up with that number, because again, I found the 48 million number on their website, as well as on some other websites that seem to keep track of how many people would qualify for this. So again, they may have come up with some new information to get that. I don't know. And they're saying now, based on these two numbers, that they got 36.5% of eligible households enrolled. They say there's 12.6 billion remaining. I didn't know what was remaining, so I just started with the 14 billion. Again, I'm kind of doing a thumbnail kind of back of the hand, cocktail napkin kind of calculation there. So they got a little bit more into this and kind of the numbers, and again, it looks very pretty too. It's very nice. So you've also got some other information here, like the highest metro and area involvement. You've got Cleveland, 59%, Detroit, 56%, Baltimore, 52%, Atlanta, where I am, 51%, Los Angeles, 51%. Lowest is Nashville, that's with 20%. And you can see some southern states here, Austin, 24%, Houston, 25%, Minneapolis, 28%, Seattle, 29%, and Boston, 32%. What else do we have? We've got percent total, this is subscribers by service type. So we got mobile and fixed. So we've got 60%, or about 7 million subscribers, 7.6 million on mobile, and then fixed broadband, 39%, or about almost 5 million subscribers on fixed broadband service. There's a very little small slice here of fixed wireless, and that's about 80,000 subscribers. Fixed wireless or satellite, as far as that, 0.6%. Then up here, they've got kind of a, if they got, depending on the amount of enrollment, looks like it's reloading. Maybe they got some new numbers. Depending on the amount of enrollment, 36% enrollment would be 13.4 million households. 40% would be 14.7, all the way up to 50% would be 18.3 million households. And let's see what else we got. And then they got the line here that tells, so let's see if we got 36%. Then we're talking, I guess that's this line here, that's lasting out to February 2025. So that's about your 3-year, again, that's about, so the numbers are very close to what I was looking at. So that's kind of like, maybe you're kind of not much change from now, and you got about 3 years. And then the most aggressive here, well, this would be continuous enrollment growth, no limit. And they've got it like February 2024. And then the one's closest to my more aggressive calculation here, 18.3 million households. Maybe that got that going out through March of 2024. So very similar to what I was thinking as far as the amount of time, again, year and a half or so. So very interesting. It's a cool looking site. It looks like they, I don't have this much time to do this. They really did a nice job with this. So anyway, I think that's pretty interesting. So it shows us again that there's going to be, we've got some decisions to make here in this country, and it's going to be interesting with the political environment. We don't know what's going to happen in the midterms. Looks like the Republicans are going to take control of the House. The Senate's more questionable. It's also questionable as to how big, if there's a red wave, how big it will be, because the polls have tightened, but then again, that tends to happen at this time of the year, and then it again kind of evens out. So we'll have to see what happens. But if Republicans are in charge, there's going to be less likely that I think that it gets more money allocated to it. But then again, no one likes to take something away from people if you're a politician, right? So they're not, even though they might not be for this, I think they want everybody to be able to get broadband, but the fact, they might prefer other ways to be able to do this rather than adding to the debt and basically taxing a lot of people. They still would very possibly go ahead and allocate more funds to this, because again, politicians don't like to take something away once people have it. That's a bad look for them, as far as voters, that kind of thing. So a few comments here. Conway fan 98, I hope so. Without it, I won't be able to afford services from Charter when that becomes available. That's good to know. So $80 for 300 by 10 is quite a lot. With ACP benefits, it would be $50, which is still somewhat high for me, but it's within an affordable range. So that's good to know. Will the money only go toward areas with just DSL, that Lawrence asked? So it's really got nothing to do with what's in your area, whether you have good broadband or not. So this is simply for households that qualify for certain low-income kinds of subsidies, and this would be one of them. So it doesn't matter if you have gig fiber in your area or really slow DSL. The only thing that matters is that your internet service provider agrees or wants to participate in it, and that you would qualify for it. And I will go ahead at the end of this, in addition to linking to this cool dashboard here, I will link to the Affordable Connectivity Program website if you'd like to take a look at that. There's FAQs up there, and that's where you can apply for it, those kinds of things. You can also, I don't know if they keep it completely up to date, but there's also, you can search for what service providers throughout the country are participating in the ACP. So anyway, interesting that, it's a good program, but we'll have to see how long this money lasts. And then personally, I would like to see it be more handled through something like USF funds, where rather than through taxes, through, maybe, because, taxes, we don't take in enough taxes to pay for everything that Congress is passing, which is a bad thing. That's why we have inflation. We've got a huge national debt. I would much rather see this maybe be somehow incorporated into the USF thing, where some of the money that we pay service providers so they can help them defray the costs of providing broadband in really hard to reach areas. Maybe some of that money can go to also help low-income folks in those areas, or any areas throughout the country, actually, any areas throughout the country, to help pay for those services. And that way, it's not a tax on everybody. It's just a charge on people's broadband bills that can afford the service. So, thanks for joining me. By the way, the deadline for the broadband data collection that the FCC was requiring, the mandated broadband data, was yesterday, so September 1st. And I did a survey. I sent out a survey to a bunch of internet service providers, and I said, hey, how are you doing with this? What challenges have you had? Have you been able to file it yet? Do you think you're going to be able to file it? Are you going to meet the deadline? And I got 41 answers back, and on next Tuesday, I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go through the results of that at 3 o'clock on my Tech Tuesday broadcast. So if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button, click the little bell. You'll be notified when I'm live, but you might check out our website. The event is already up there as a scheduled event, again, next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Maybe I'll link to that at the end of this as well. So again, that's going to be on this broadband data collection. And what that is for, every service provider had from June 30th to September 1st to be able to upload their broadband serviceable locations, which is every address where they can provide internet service, not just where they have customers, but where they can provide service to a customer with a standard installation, so like a 2-week installation. And they needed to provide what their maximum upload and download speed was, their advertised upload and download speed, and whether the latency was under 100 milliseconds, the location ID where that house is, but not the address, which was one challenge that I think people had. And then what else? How many units there are, if it's a multi-dwelling unit or multi-tenant unit, as a business or a residence. That's pretty much it. They needed to upload that in the proper format in this FCC site in order to do that. And the FCC is going to take that data and they're going to turn that into a map. That's going to be the new broadband map. But around November or so, they're supposed to have that first shot at the map out. And then there's going to be lots of challenges as service providers, and people, even people like you and me, challenge that data. Service providers will be saying things like, wait a minute, I am providing service in this area, and it says I'm not. Consumers might be saying, wait a minute, this says I get gig internet available to me, and there's nobody providing symmetrical gig internet here. Or maybe they might say, maybe it's somebody that says, hey, we provide 300 by 10, and they go, wait a minute, they say they provide 300 by 10, but when I do a speed test, I'm getting like 30 by 10. So that could be their local network, whatever, but there'll be challenges like that, but there'll be challenges from service providers. So it's going to be a while before this gets worked out, but this map has to be complete before the FCC releases the majority of the funds from the BEAD program, because the BEAD program relies on what service areas are unserved and underserved, and we won't know what areas are unserved until all of the service providers put in their data and say, here's what we're providing at this address. So this is to overcome the current broadband maps, which are based around census block. If a service provider, the service providers just had to say, I serve this census block, and here's the speed I offer, here's the max speed I offer. So it doesn't matter if there's 2 homes in that census block that they serve, or they serve 100% of that census block, it's still counted as being served, that whole census block. So that's what we're trying to get away from. So I'm going to go through the results of that survey, and just to kind of let you know, I did get a lot of feedback that people were saying that the broadband fabric was not accurate. They were having a hard time finding their addresses on there. Some of that may be the way the addresses were listed on the FCC fabric, their format of the address versus what the service provider had, but a lot of people were struggling with that. So I'm going to go through the results of the survey on next Tuesday, so you might want to check that out. Again, I'll go ahead and link to that at the end of this, but also go ahead and subscribe and click the bell to be notified when I'm live, because I'll be doing that, but then every day I'm on here as well. Thanks for joining me. Again, I will see you next week with Broadband Deployment News on Monday, and then Tech Tuesday, I'll be going through that survey and the results of that. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.